Happy Saturday and happy game day to everybody, as well as happy week one fantasy football to all of those who play. Good luck to everybody in their fantasy leagues. I already know people who have Cup and Kelsey out who are already pulling hairs out because they already wasted their round one or round two draft picks. It's already week two, guys, and our opponent tonight is SMU Mustangs. Unlike last week, where OU essentially Hulk smashed Arkansas State to the point where we made their coach cry, we face off against future ACC member and fellow lover of ponies, SMU, for our first night game of the season. I don't care if it's 5 o'clock, it's a night game, guys, because by the time the game ends, it's going to be like 9 o'clock night game. They're our replacement, as a reminder to everybody, due to conference realignment. That said, it has been a hot minute since we faced off against the Pony Express. Before I say really any numbers for OU, keep in mind like there's a ton of stuff that is just completely out of sorts and very, very much favored OU. As I mentioned earlier, we destroyed a team and it made us look better probably than we actually are. If we win the Natty this year, hey, awesome, they were actually spot on, but I highly doubt it. But here's the thing: what do I tell you based on last week's performance? Everything is skewed with a one game sample size. I mean, I think I saw stat wise that OU had some wacky stat, like they were like the number one total offense or the number one total defense because of how much of a mismatch it was last week. So it's hard for me to say where we really need to focus, areas of improvements, areas that we shine, especially as we're still going through the motions and we're still going through committees. The best that I can mention is kind of what everyone else has mirrored, as well as monkeying myself, is we did really, really well with efficiency versus last year's. Now, moving away from OU, let's move on to SMU really fast. Concerning the Pony Express, they're taking OU very, very seriously as they're already been playing all this week Boomer Sooner at their practices. You can take that as a Boomer Sooner really does psychological damage to people, or they're just prepping for how many Boomer Sooners they're going to hear tonight. First thing I immediately noticed, though, is that they have a lot of talent on both sides of the ball, in addition to a lot of familiar faces that used to be on OU's roster. This is not going to be a cakewalk like it was last week. I do believe that SMU is going to put up a very, very early fight, and mostly too with the heat of the day mostly gone at this point, SMU is going to last, in my opinion, till at least halftime. Looking at their offense, again, mirroring above, they have a lot of talent up front and a lot of depth. Their strongest units by far has to be the running back and their wide receivers. Concerning the defense, unlike their defense does lack a little bit of depth, which just plays to OU's advantage, especially in their secondary. Even against LA Tech last week, they allowed a lot of yards through the air, but they were near the bottom of the barrel last year nationally against passing offenses, and they do allow yardage. OU will be able to move the ball on them, as well as they're going to find the end zone against us. Keeping all that in mind, what does this mean for the game tonight? For OU, it's pretty simple. Do exactly what you did last week. Don't take your foot off the pedal. Don't play down to your opponent. You should do fine. I expect the offense to play very, very well. I expect them to be still go through committees. I expect the defense to play, hopefully, keep SMU to about 21 to 30 points. I know people will be disappointed if they hear 30-ish points, but if you keep everything in mind, I bet there's going to be some garbage time touchdowns. Another one that I will be looking for tonight is definitely an area that OU can focus on is pressuring the quarterback, even if it's forcing Stone to toss it away. SMU, again, even against their opponent last week, struggled to convert third downs and stop offenses on third downs. We got forced turnovers. We have to take advantage of it versus last week where we didn't really have a lot of pressure on the D line, and our pass rush, as everyone who's been paying attention from the offseason, is going to be inconsistent. Like I said, the only area I just don't see OU taking advantage of, and they're going to have to earn it, is going to be sacking the quarterback. Again, we struggled. We knew this though going from camp. We're just going to be inconsistent with some pass rush. That said, OU should be able to do what they want at will on the offensive side of the ball. The only real knock I would say, even on the offense though, is Dylan can do what he wants, what he did last week. But I would like to see a little bit more improvement as well as a little more pass plays in the middle of the field. Dylan did, as usual, struggle a little bit last week with the long ball because it did seem like at the game he did overthrow his receivers and his receivers had to adjust as a result of that. It reminded me a lot of Landry Jones. If you have a great wide receiver, they can shadow or overcome some of the quarterback's deficiencies for that. And we saw that a little bit last week. But I would like to see him actually hitting the receivers in stride versus them turning and having to adjust. Um, Again, another thing that plays into our advantage is there's practically no film on what OU played because we were so basic last week and we took care of business against Arkansas State. SMU really has very little to nothing to work with in addition to it being week 2, which also plays into our advantage. Finally, let's at this game versus last week's game, let's see actual true year 2 improvements against a quality opponent. Getting off the field on third downs, having our receivers set, having, the having efficiency for it. Let's see all of that in play with this game. I also, like I said, wouldn't be surprised based on last week's injuries if Drake and McCullough just stay on the sidelines. They don't need them for tonight's game. Even with minor injuries, just let them heal up, focus on and let some of the other guys play. Drake is not your number one wide receiver, and McCullough I don't think would be your number one anyway as well. So let him go through the motions for it. Final prediction, in my opinion, it's going to be OU 51, SMU 31. Just a smidge of hanging half 100 on them, and especially like a little bit over probably where people would be comfortable with under the lights tonight. Again, some of it's going to be points from garbage time. Last week, Arkansas State could not do that even in garbage time. This week, I do expect some points for it. In previous years past, this is one of those teams that we would have had a dogfight with, and it would have been something like 62-42, especially if you look at it on paper, as they do, again, have a lot of talent. I have confidence, though, that can cover the spread. SMU is going to give our secondary a challenge with the air raid scheme, not to mention that SMU will find the end zone. They are going to score points. Y'all have to accept that. If they don't, I'll drink a little bit of the Kool-Aid and see how good this team actually is, or if it's still going to be fool's gold at that point, like we had up to Nebraska last year. Again, I think we're going to get a true glimpse of who the actual starters are going to be versus going through committees for the rest of the season. Again, though, I still have to have that buy-in. If we take care of business as with SMU, I think we'll have a little bit better idea of how they're going to look against more quality opponents coming up, such as Cincinnati. I personally think SMU will probably be a top 25 opponent by the end of the year, but they have to take care of business on their side as well. But again, we can't really take too much into consideration right now because it's still too early to tell what OU and SMU are. Now, again, like I said, if OU does manage a blowout, and I mean a true blowout or it's a shutout again, I'll be a little bit of a believer. I'll be just a bit, just a bit. That's all I got, guys. As a reminder, this game is on ESPN Plus tonight. So if you don't have it now and you haven't logged in, be sure to get that squared away before kickoff. You don't want to be scrambling, trying to get your password reset and trying to find the game before the game kicks off at 5 o'clock, not 6 o'clock usually, or 7 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Additionally, guys, if you're attending the game, remember OU is striping the stadium. My own opinion aside, if you're in the even number sections, be sure to wear your crimson. Again, that's all I got, guys. Be sure to comment, rate, subscribe, like, and hit the bell. Be sure to watch previous videos. They're great background noise, as well as it just helps my numbers out as well. Be sure to look into the comment section for my upload calendar. I do my best to go back and daily update everything from the past week. I know I have fallen behind as a result of that, just because of very short turnaround on projects at work that I've had to focus on. Finally, be sure to tell your friends about the channel. I would love to hear more feedback, as well as to share my thoughts and feelings and have everyone participate and stuff in the live streams. Post-game video will come tomorrow morning, since that game is a late game and getting home from that game is going to be a hassle on its own. Live stream will also be tomorrow night, recapping the SMU game, Sunday, September 10th at 8 o'clock on the dot at Central Standard Time or Central Daylight Time, our usual kickoff time for post-game. Again, guys, that's all I have. Boomer Sooner, only one Oklahoma. See everybody at the game.